should. But the scripture told me that I had to be good. But now I love because I want to. I love because I'm free, blinded by the Spirit. Oh Lord, Spirit of God is upon me. Yes, it is. Every day. Spirit of God is upon me, Lord. Every day in every way. Spirit of God is upon me now. I don't need any prodding. I don't need any law. I want to sing with all my heart. God is my all in all. Lay down my burden. Loving God has made me free. Blinded by the Spirit. Oh Lord, the Spirit of God is upon me. Yes, it is. Every day. The Spirit of God is upon me. Lord. The Spirit of God is upon me in every way, every day, every way. Spirit of God is upon me. I thought it was my duty. I thought it was my job. Somehow I believed that loving God would be hard. And loving God is wonderful. Loving God is ecstasy. I thank God for my freedom. Let me tell you that the Spirit of God is upon me. Oh, the Spirit of God is upon me, Lord. Every day, everywhere, everywhere, it's right here, right now. Oh, the Spirit of God is upon me. Oh, the Spirit of God is upon me, Lord. Every day, everywhere. Oh, the Spirit of God is upon me. Oh, the Spirit of God is upon me. Thank you.
Let's hear it for that choir. Yeah. And good morning. How are you? Good, great, kind of good. Tell me more. Come on. Great, super. How was Disneyland? Awesome. How was Egypt? Awesome. All right. Yeah, got some awesomeness going on. Well, welcome. I'm so glad you all showed up today. It's the best day ever, which is my favorite day because it's today and I'm alive. And I really appreciate that. Yeah. And I love this week. I loved celebrating the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday because Martin Luther King Jr. is one of the people that I really admire in the world. And the reason why I admire him is because he stood for a vision of possibility. And he stood for the idea of a better country and even a better world. And he was willing to do it in a way that wasn't against something, but was for something. He was standing for justice. He was standing for love. He was standing for a human family that he dreamed could be equal and loving towards each other, because in the world where he was in, it was not that. Now, I know we've made a lot of strides. I think there's a lot of work to do, but the thing that I do know is that he stood for a vision. He stood for a vision. And that's where I come from. I come from standing for a vision of what's possible in the world. This center, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, we have a vision. Our vision statement says that we are a force for good in the world. Now, anything about a vision is sometimes, I don't know how that vision is going to manifest. I don't know how to get it done, but what I do know is that there is an infinite spirit in the universe that does know how to accomplish the vision and has already created the tools and methods for it to be possible. And so I just need to stand in the vision and know that it's possible and allow it to guide me to my actions. There's something to be said for Mother Teresa, who, when the Vietnam War was happening, people were like, why don't you go to an anti-war rally? And she said, I don't stand against things. I stand for things. So when you have a peace rally, I'll be there. And that's what I feel like Center for Spiritual Living is up to. We're up to standing for things. All of Centers for Spiritual Living has a larger vision. And when you walk into this place, you may not know, but there is an inherited way of being that helps you embody this vision out in the world that you don't even know about. But it might be good for you to know what that vision is so you can know what you're buying into when you sit in a Center for Spiritual Living. So I'd like to invite up my guests to speak. This vision, so you know, this is our global vision for Center for Spiritual Living. The global vision. We see a world that works for everyone.
La visión global es la visión donde vemos un mundo que funciona para todos, where all life is honored as expression of the divine, donde honramos la vida como una expresión de lo divino, where people live accordingly to spiritual truth, donde las personas viven de acuerdo a su verdad espiritual, where humanity awakens to spiritual magnificence, donde la humanidad despierta a su magnificencia espiritual, where humanity rediscover personal creative power, donde la humanidad descubre una vez más su poder creativo, where we live as one global family, donde vivimos como una familia global.
Where kinship with all life prospers, where unity and connection is emphasized, where forgiveness is the norm, where spiritual guidance is valued, where we are called to conscious social action, where people have enough food, homes, and a sense of belonging.
And where there is peace, harmony, and justice for all, where resources are valued, cared for, and shared, where communities are meaningfully involved in service to the world, and where there is a renewed emphasis on beauty, nature, creativity, art, and the aesthetics. This is the global vision, and this is how we see it working for everyone.
Thank you. Now, I don't know about you, but that's one of the most inspiring visions I've ever heard in my entire life. And that's why I stand for that in this community. I stand for that vision. And it's a vision that I don't know how it's going to come into being, but I do know that as I speak it, as I embody it, and as I reflect it out into the world, that I can participate in the creation of it. Now, most Centers for Spiritual Living, they start from the very beginning in January, because it's a very good place to start. And I love that we start in the Science of Mind textbook. I don't know if you've read this book. It's a big book. The first 4 chapters in this book are the thing itself, the way it works, what it does, and how to use it. And instead of spending 4 weeks on that, you're going to get the microwave version today. I'm going to give you all of that in one fabulous talk. Are you ready? The thing itself. Ernest Holmes said, "The mind which we discover within us is the mind that governs everything. This is the thing itself. The life which we live is a universal life expressing through us. How else could we live? Our thought and our emotion is the use we make consciously or unconsciously of this original creative thing that is the cause of everything." Reading the Science of Mind textbook is kind of like reading the Bible. It's very pithy, very meaty. And what Ernest Holmes is saying right there is that we embrace the understanding that God, or maybe you don't want to call it God because you have a former version of what that word means, maybe spirit, maybe the universe. But whatever is the great creator, it is everywhere and it is infinite. Now, when I say infinite, that means there cannot be a place where it's not. So when I say God is over there but not here, then I have just defined and I put a limitation on God. But the truth is that infinite means everywhere. It cannot not be somewhere. It has to be everywhere. So no matter where I go, if I go to the beach or I go to Sunday service, no matter where I am, God, the universe, is available in and through me. Now that's the key. This is the great secret of the world, is that you have access to the great creator of everything. And it is in and through you and me. And God doesn't stop speaking. God doesn't stop creating. The way it creates is through us. We are individualized expressions of the great creator. We have the ability to create, which is very powerful. So I want you to just raise your arms up and look in the sky. And just for a minute, imagine all of creation. So you might imagine this planet, and then the galaxy, and then the solar system, and the universe, all the millions and billions of galaxies. That power of creation. Now I want you to bring all of that power and pull it down right into the center of your being, right here. Yeah. And that's the power that is within each and every one of us. That is the thing itself. The way it works through our mind, through our intentions, through our belief systems, through our conscious use of our words, our thoughts and our feelings, our cause in our life. It expresses through each and every one of us as we choose to have it create. Now, the cool thing is God, or the universe, is like this amazing creative soil. And we get to plant things in the soil, and then they get to come, if we nurture and water them, they come into fruition. Very simple. But I can be planting seeds of hate, or I can be planting seeds of love, and I got a choice. I can choose what I want to plant. And if I don't choose what I want to plant, then there's a lot of people in this world that are planting seeds, and the collective energy is what I get to receive. I get to live life by default, according to what everybody else wants. Or I can choose to consciously be a participation as part of the creation of what is happening in this world. Good news, bad news, right? So I have a choice. Everything that's happening is an effect. It's an effect. I think about this microphone, right? This is a microphone. Somebody dreamed up this microphone. Somebody dreamed up this banner. There was an idea first. The idea came first. And by the way, ideas are God's currency. So the idea came first, and then somebody created it into being. So everything that's happening right now is just an effect of what former ideas are coming into being. Now, if I don't like what's happening, that means I get to be part of creating a new idea of possibility for the future. I get to be the one that chooses a new idea. But I have the choice if I'm just going to keep perpetuating with what was, or do I want to have a new idea, a new possibility? Do I want to step in a new way of being? And if I want to step into a new way of being, how have I participated in accepting the old way of being in my life? Because I think there's sometimes unconscious patterns and belief systems that get inherited. And that doesn't mean that I agree with them or I like them or I even want them to be. But if I recognize and know that it's not what I want anymore, then I get to actively participate into stepping into a new idea of possibility, which means I choose to reflect and embody that new way of being. Now, there's things that people can inherit that are challenging. I know a person who inherited the idea that their family was very unlucky. My grandpa told me about this family, very unlucky family. And they would say, oh, our family has the worst luck. And then something would happen. They'd say, see, that's what it was. That's our family. Well, I just want you to know that my family, we win raffles. And I've inherited that. How many of you saw me at the Kathy anniversary? I'm just saying. So we can inherit familiar ways of being. And trust me, my mom wins raffles, my grandma won raffles. Like, I inherited the idea that I always win raffles. But there's things that I inherit that I don't necessarily agree with, which means they got to stop here with me, and I get to make a new choice. Because our minds are like gardens. We must cultivate all of the thoughts and feelings that we desire, like we cultivate the flowers we wish to experience. As a matter of fact, it's kind of like JellO. It's kind of like JellO. Like JellO you can put into any mold. Don't you love JellO molds? Aren't they great? JellO molds. You can have a fish. You can have a little rock star. You can have, you can have little squares. But the JellO is like God. God is the universal JellO. It is. And we can put it into the mold that we want. We get to choose. Or it's like electricity. Now, electricity was around forever, but we didn't know how to harness it and use it. We didn't know that it was ever available, this power and this electricity. And the power and the electricity can do all kinds of amazing things. It can put those fans going. It can light these lights. I can plug it in and have a toaster or a blender and have it work in that way. Or people can use it for harm. They can use it to fry a person. Now, is it the electricity's fault that we choose to use it in a way that damages others? No. It's up to us to decide how we want to use this amazing power that's available. What I can say, though, is that just like electricity that's ever present, it is a force for good. But we can use it in a way that doesn't serve. It's kind of like darkness. Now, darkness is not a force in and of itself. It is merely the absence of light. So if I went and I turned the light switch on and it doesn't turn on a light, it's because the connection's not there. It's not because the electricity's not there. So every time I'm experiencing something in my life where I'm feeling disconnected, it's not because God isn't in me. It's because I'm just feeling that way. I got to reconnect because it is there. I'm just not experiencing it. So I got to do what I need to do in order to reconnect with my divine force for good. But it doesn't mean that God is failing anybody. It doesn't mean God is failing this country or the world. It just means that we're choosing to use it in a way that doesn't serve our greater good. But I'm not going to be a part of that world anymore. I'm going to be a part of a world that chooses to be a force for good, or chooses to create a world that works for everyone. Even if that means somehow, in some way, I was participating in a way that isn't that way. Like I can realize that I have a new way of being in this world. And sometimes, I don't know about you, how many people have had practitioner sessions and had your practitioner point out a belief system that wasn't serving you that you didn't see? I don't know. It's so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable for somebody to say, I was believing in that. But once I know that I was believing in that, like I used to believe that I couldn't buy a house because I couldn't afford it. Well, that was a belief system. But I had all this evidence. I was living in California. It's too much money. Nobody can buy houses there. But I did once I realized there was a belief system that was operating in me that I couldn't do it. And I had to look at that. You know what God does? God creates miracles every day. That's right. As a matter of fact, in my life, miracles happen every day. Every day. Thank you, Esther. I love it. I need to have you around more often. A year and a half ago, my mom got a ring for me. Now, my grandma has died. She died a couple of years ago. And so what my mom decided to do is she was going to melt down the jewelry, get all the precious stones, and create 2 new rings with the precious stones. And she had me design what the rings looked like. And so she got these very special rings made for her and me of this jewelry, of these precious stones for my grandma. And she gave this amazing ring to me. And then a year and a half ago, Gina and I went on an RV trip. And I know I took the ring with me on the RV trip. I know I did. And I know when we came back, so we went all over the place. We went hiking, we went on trails and stuff. And when we came back home, I didn't have the ring. And my mom had just given me the ring. And I was like, okay, God, I know that in the mind of God, nothing is lost. That it is ever available to me, that I can always know that God doesn't lose anything. That it is here now in the mind of God, it is here now, and I know it is my ring, and it is not lost. Well, I didn't find it. And then I went to my practitioner. And my practitioner, she prayed for me. And she said, I'm so good at manifesting all this stuff. Don't you worry, you'll find that ring. Well, she didn't. I didn't get it then either. So we moved here, and unfortunately, we looked in our RV. We cleaned our RV out, front and bottom. I've been going through every box, like, no ring. And I decided to go back to the gym. It's been about a year and a half. Thank you, Bev, for the support and helping me get back to the gym. And I pulled out these exercise pants yesterday, and there was this little pocket in one of them, and I felt in there, and I pulled out my ring. Now, I don't know about you, but that is a miracle. A year and a half ago, and yet in my heart and soul, I was so excited when I was praying for it because I knew it would make the best story ever whenever I found my ring. Yeah. And it took a long time, but it doesn't matter because there is no time and space in God, and I just got to let go sometimes. I just got to let go and believe that in my heart and soul, God knows. Now, I know this is a physical thing, but it is relevant for all things. It is available to you, and you get to claim it and know it and declare it. And then part of it is surrendering to let God, the universe, doing the how and the when, and just being in that. So what does it do? It changes lives. It changes them dramatically and drastically. It brings me and a total awareness that I have a oneness with God. I am at one with the divine. And whenever I remember that, nothing out there can stop me from being the most magnificent expression of the divine that I can be. But when I forget, I need to be reminded. Because God imparts of its nature as much as we partake of its nature. So I know that there's a powerful good in the universe, and you can use it. However, you must be specific about the good that you want. You have to use the JellO mold. You got to be specific. You got to say what you want, and you got to know that God is already creating it. Have faith in God and faith in the power of your word. I have faith that the vision, the global vision that Centers for Spiritual Living is participating in is truly happening now. You can see it everywhere. You can see it on the Gillette commercial where they're addressing toxic masculinity with men. Because men are tired of having an old stereotype. Men are stepping into their power in a way that empowers others. And that's what I love. You can see the vision. You can see it taking place. But sometimes it means things have to fall apart before they're falling together. And that's what's happening right now. Things are falling apart. But that's only because they're falling together, because we've been stepping into a new way of being in our lives. So what I know is how you use it is like spiritual boot camp. Now, I used to do boot camp over a year and a half ago. But what I know when I kept doing it over and over and over again is I had muscle tone and muscle definition. I don't have it anymore. Why? Because I wasn't doing exercise for a year and a half. But as spiritual individuals, we get to use our spiritual muscles when things are challenging. As a matter of fact, that's the best time to use your spiritual muscles. That's the best time to start declaring a new possibility. You're like, this possibility is not working for me, so I'm going to choose something different. I'm going to claim it. I'm going to know it. I'm going to affirm it. I'm going to have intentions around it. I'm going to start seeing evidence of it everywhere I go, because then, as I do that, I start building the spiritual muscle. And if I don't do my spiritual work, my spiritual progress, it becomes not much. But if I do my spiritual work, then I can start seeing, and it's usually when the hardest things are happening in our lives that we have the invitation to use that. Like when I'm doing a push-up, they're pretty freaking hard. I just want you to know that. They are. And I hurt right now. But that doesn't mean a greater good isn't happening because of it. So if you're in a hard time right now, you might just start using your spiritual muscle. And maybe there might be painful things going on, but you have to know that there's a greater good that's happening because of it. And when we stand in that truth, then we can utilize the divine for the greatest good possible. We can use it individually so we can each have thriving lives, but we can also use it collectively so that we can start seeing a city, a country, a nation that we dream about. And we're the dreamers. We get to put our dream, just like Martin Luther King did. We get to be the mouthpiece for the new dream. We get to say, I see a world that works for everyone. I see a new possibility for this planet. I see a place where we share our resources. I see a place where forgiveness is the norm, which means I get to forgive myself and others. I see a place of possibility where only love and creativity and spiritual revelation are part of who we are in this world. And I know that this is happening right here and right now. But know that it's always a choice. And you have to choose it for yourself. But that's what I choose. I choose the universal JellO mold. I choose the JellO mold that comes with the idea of a world that works for everyone. What do you choose? You make your choice, and then you get to see it happen. So what do you choose? I know that each and every one of us here is a part of something spectacular. And I'm going to be like Mission Impossible, where you have something to choose. Are you going to choose the hard thing? Are you going to choose a new possibility of joy? Because if you think it's possible, that's not what God says. God says, I'm possible. And so choose, I'm possible. I can do it. And so can you. And so it is. Let's pray. I just want to thank the Infinite One for Spiritual Boot Camp. I know that I have a trainer that is allowing me to step into the fullness of vitality and well-being. And so I use every challenge that I get as an opportunity for my greater growth for good. I also know and claim that there is an infinite potentiality in the mind of God, and that I get to direct what is coming through the infinite universe through my thoughts, words, and deeds. And so I direct this in a way that allows me to see the miracles every day. I open to a new understanding. I open to a new revelation. I open to new insights. I open to new ways of being, and I know that I can do it as God does it through me. But I get to be the inlet and the outlet to the divine. And so I give great thanks for this truth, knowing that it's already done, knowing that God has already said yes to me. Yes, I can do it. And so it is.